Welcome everyone. We're thrilled to have you here for this Masterclass session, part of the Italian Tech Week. We are here thanks to Italian Tech Academy and Talent Garden Digital Skills Academy, that are two organizations that are committed to providing courses, master, short, intense sessions on these right topics. So we're talking about AI, applications of the AI, and how this is impacting the future of our organizations and professions as a whole. I'm very happy to have you here, Boston Consulting Group. We are here talking today about, as you can see, beyond the adoption, what it is about building an agentic AI first company. Thank you. I'll leave it to you to introduce yourself and to have also a moment of discussion opened in the second part of this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Welcome everybody. We're very happy that we managed successfully to wave the surf of that buzzword to fill the room with you. So thanks again for being here. My name is Emmanuele. I'm a partner in BCG, where 3 years ago with Niccolò we launched this task force called The Seeds to help founders of startup and scale up in scaling your business faster. We are doing that with the knowledge that as BCG globally we have across many different topics, and first and foremost AI, which will be the discussion point of today.
Very nice to be here, very nice to be in this beautiful venue. My name is Niccolò, I'm a principal in BCG. I'm working with Emmanuele on these topics, but I'm also a principal in the technology and digital area of BCG. Super happy to be here, and maybe just to kickstart, 2 questions we would like to solve with you today. One is where we are today, and the second question would be what to do. Okay. Let me start with a bit of catch up or raise of hands. How many of you are enthusiastic about AI? Please raise your hands. 90%? I would say 90%. Good. Second question would be, based on this, how many of you, for those that are founders or for those that work in certain companies, how many of you has, let's say, something in production with regards to AI, broadly speaking? So might be a Gen AI tool, might be something regarding AI. Half? Half.
Half.
Good. Okay. Why we're asking this one? So in BCG, you all know we run a lot of surveys, right? And one of the surveys we launched recently was regarding how is the adoption of AI going through. The first and foremost important thing is the survey was launched in 2025 of about more than 10K, more than 10,000 of people amongst all ranks in the company, so white collars and blue collars as well. What we can see is clearly that the confidence towards AI is growing massively. The optimism is growing massively. The criticism, the concerns with regards to AI is declining. But there are 2 very important things that we discovered, which are, first, what we can see, a lot of managers are actually using AI in a broad sense amongst daily activities, amongst normal ways of working. While the shocking factor is that frontline employees are actually not using it that often, right? And we will discover or try to understand now in this session why is this happening, right? Because half of them have said to be adopting or using this. Why? There are 3 main challenges that emerged from this survey that we launched. The first one is people are actually lacking skills or are actually lacking training for that. Only 1/3 of the people we interviewed are actually reporting that they have sufficient training to do. People do not know how to use it. Second, very much connected to it, is tools. People do not know which tool to use. We are, and I think this can be shared amongst all of you, we are completely bombarded with new AI tools. ChatGPT is releasing a new model each and every month or so. We have so many tools that people, actually 1/3 of the people, actually said we know which tool to use. But more than that, only half of them are actually saying that they're using authorized tools inside their companies. So this is the second, let's say, blocker that we will need to analyze and to solve. The third one being one of the foremost and most important in every decision within a company, which is the leadership part. So only 1/4, 25% of the employees actually said that they have the right empowerment, they have the right guidance for the users from the leadership to actually use, let's call it broadly, Gen AI or generative AI topics or tools or whatever. No? So one and the foremost principle that we would like to pass with you is these three blockers, these 3 points actually needs to be solved, whether you're a founder, whether you're an employee. Why especially this one? Let's see. Can you switch? Good. Why? For one simple fact. Your competitors, for those of you that are founders, or for those of you that are working in companies, your competitor will not be a Fortune 500 company, right? Will be likely a very lean company, very small company with few people or a bunch of 20, 30 people that can run very efficient Gen AI or artificial intelligence or agentic systems in their daily job. And I mean, we just listed here, now the numbers for sure can be updated into increasing factors anymore, but what you can see from IRR perspectives, these companies have built tremendous IRR, so real subscription, it's like a constant flow of money in a very short amount of time with very limited people.
This just to put on perspective, we'll look at the number of the IRR on cursors this morning. So this page was done a couple of months ago. We checked this morning, and cursor is, guess what, 500. So that's the speed that you are seeing there. So the key point is, doesn't matter whether you are in this business or not. The key point is, sooner or later, your competitor will be an AI native company. And that is somehow scary, but also can be a great opportunity.
Definitely. So where we are today. Okay, I will start with a brief concept of where we are, starting a bit from behind. We all know we have built the foundations. So we have built large language models that are still refining and growing up towards the years, but we must say the foundations have been built. So the first step of this chain is actually there. We have trained chatbots. For those that remember in the old Microsoft, the tiny icon that helped you in solving very basic stuff, up to much more complicated chatbots that are actually providing you the right answer and really avoiding the, let's say, the human intervention to solve very basic problems. We are now in a stage where we are building what we called as agentic workflows that are basically a series of deterministic or a series of, let's say, applications that runs once above the other. But the most important part is where we are not. We are not yet into what we call autonomous agents. So let's say applications, and now I'll describe in a second, but that can run themselves in an autonomous way in the basic 3 concepts: observe, plan the action, and act upon it. Where we are definitely not is in agents, multi-agent systems that are also able to communicate towards the outside that can take decision. We are not probably that far away. We will, Emmanuele will tell you, we are probably not far away, but we are not there yet. Why so? One important element that we mentioned are agentic. So, I mean, agents, agentic AI are, let me say, kind of a buzzword, no, at the moment. And what we discovered, or what we ran, again, as a survey, that more than 70% of actual leaders or people actually knows what an agent, let's say an AI agent is actually that will be important, but actually only 1/3 knows what what is an agent, an AI agent. And this is a fundamental question, no, to be solved, to better understand the world we are going into, regardless or not we want to go in that world, no? Maybe if you can, just 1 second, I would also now, before jumping in this one, run a bit of another kind of test. how many of you has an AI agent in production? So no POC, no proof of scale, not pilot, nothing. A real agent in production that touches your P&L. I would say less than 5%.
Perfect,
no?
thanks. That's exactly the number we needed for going
We did
ahead
our
with
analysis,
the,
good.
with the Masterclass, so well done.
Exactly. Why it's so complicated? Because if we think and we move from what is called the generative AI towards an agent from the term per se, for those that are Italian or Italian speakers, comes from Latin, it means from agere, which means to do. That's the main and core difference of what an agent is. It's something not only can, let's say, observe, that can understand based on a prompt, for example, but can plan and can act upon it and will act relentlessly to reach, determine, or fix goals that the tool is based upon. No? So an AI agent, in very, very simple terms, is composed of three core things. One is the brain, the large language model, right, which has developed massively, and it's the brain of how an AI agent works. The second being the arms, no? Which are the tools, the connection, the APIs that are connecting what you're building and the language model that you're building towards other things in a company, to other language models, and so on and so forth. And the third being the memory. The memory, it's a clear point, and I'm pretty sure you feel it. If for those that are using ChatGPT, if you think about ChatGPT before ChatGPT 4 or so, the memory was kind of very short memory. So if you run two different chats, the language model doesn't remember what you have asked before. For those of you that are using ChatGPT 5, it's pretty surprising that when you run, let's say, another chat in a similar argument, they will ask questions on the previous chat or the previous prompt that you actually asked, which is quite a very interesting point, no? And to build an AI agent, you need a memory that it's called long-term memory. But these three elements alone are not sufficient to build an agent. It requires a framework to act upon, but more importantly, the bottom part, it requires instructions, it requires workflows, but it requires guardrails. Guardrails, it's a very important concept for an AI agent because it will determine when the agent can stop or continue to act and achieve certain goals that you have instructed to reach upon. Good. So why knowing this, let's say, concept and knowing an AI agent is massively important? Now we have just collected just few impacts or benefits that this technology can bring, and you can clearly see the massive efficiency that you can gain upon it, which has positive and negative consequences, of course, but it's something that each and every company and the entire ecosystem must understood. Because, for example, you can see the high-value tasks, and unfortunately we might be part of that, are decreasing massively from, let's say, a 10K per year of a very skilled employee towards something like, I would say, a very limited amount. Advisory costs are declining massively. The timing. So here we have market media analysis, but you can think about solving, for example, a ticket, right, from customer services. That can slow down or it can decrease massively. So second key point is, upon solving what are the blockers, understanding that this is something that will enter, that even if we want it or not, will enter. And third thing, AI agents have a massive impact on the world we are living and on how you run your own company.
Okay, so let's now address the hot part here. How do we get from where we are today to something that is different, something that creates real impact through this agentic AI work? Let me start with a bit of overall perspective. Maybe dai clicker che provo. So let's start with the usual, probably familiar with BCG framework, that has two big groups that you see on that page. The first one on the top is people and process. And that's key as much it is the technological part, which is algo and tech. We'll deep dive in 4 out of this block, starting from the vision. And the vision is focus. Would mean, and we'll see in a second, that leaders that are successful in that are focusing not on 100 use cases, but very few one. Then we look at what does it mean to have a real organization that is AI first. Then we look at the technological part with the new components on the tech stack, and then some risk that is there. Okay? So before getting into that, help me out here understanding how much of you has a technical role in that moment versus a business one. Just like roughly, raise your hands if you are a technical role. Okay, so half here, perfect. So I'll try to be not too high level, but as well as not too technical for those that are not that technical. Let's start from the first point. What does it mean to be focused in terms of vision, as well as the ambition that is behind there? These are numbers that we got from the expertise that we see around and the impact on this big program on AI transformation that we are running across the globe. You can see here that leaders, those that are successful in the implementation of AI, are focused on things that matter. And again, you don't have to have 100 of use cases active. What matters is where you focus your attention. And you clearly see that the moment that is focused, the vision, on what does matter, you get a better adoption, almost double compared to the other, as well as the return on investment, again, double versus the other. That is the first message. Let's look at the second. And bear with me while we walk from the usual organization with whom we are likely to be familiar with to the AI-first organization. If you picture yourself in a standard organization, likely everything is driven by processes. So it's built on structured processes where people are core part of these processes. And that is basically where we are today, transitioning to what is called here a digital enhanced organization. I will explain what does it mean technically, but you can see, again, the same organization as before, structure on people as part of core processes with a bit of enhancement. The third part is where we kind of remove these processes and we have agent AIs delivering tangible outcomes with people governing that outcomes. Let's put it in practice. Usual example is the customer service. Traditional organization, I would challenge you if you haven't a bad experience with some customer service around, whether you have to reschedule your flight or ask for clarification on utilities bill. That's typical experience on the very left-hand side. Processing of ticketing in that type of organization, so the one that you see before around core processes with human as part of these processes, average 24 hours for solving a ticket. Now, if you move to a digital enhanced organization, you have a better ticketing system, you have a support there. If you are the operators, you get prompt with information of who's calling you, but still the same process. Impact is, again, you drastically reduce the time to a couple of minutes, but it's still same process with the new tools. So you can see where I'm going. What's the future of customer service? And that is not rocket science. If you think about what is my customer service stream, I have to reschedule a flight. I probably don't even want to call. I just want that in a couple of seconds they change my ticket, right? I want my utilities file to be so clear that the moment that I'm logging in, they know that I am who I am, and I'm likely calling for a clarification, and they give me immediately the answer. Time to solve a ticket, couple of seconds. Okay, that is the AI-first organization. Of course, we are looking at AI native, as we saw before, and of course, Cursor is disrupting a market, and somehow it's easy when you're almost starting from scratch, compared to a very well-established organization. But that is what does it mean to be an AI-first organization. But if you think about how do we make that possible, so if you think about the technological stack behind that, you could picture this journey on moving from AI app, which is basically every type of software that is based today. So you have an interface layer, you have a business and API layer, okay? And maybe we can get in detail after. data layer and the connection with the company enterprise system. Where we are moving next 12 months is similar stack, where on the interface part, you will see more interaction with voice chat or chatbot directly, as we were mentioning. You see the entrance in the stack of usual elements on the agentic or structure, so agent, tools, orchestration, and a bit of memory. But again, this will be changing from something you use by yourself, ChatGPT style, to a bit more team logic. So you have a collaboration, and therefore the chat, the UI are going that direction. But where we see a key component for the AI-first organization is the ecosystem. Ecosystem means agents are embedded everywhere. And you have a super strong new components on the stack, on the agent-to-agent tools registry, and we'll deep dive in a second, and the memory component, as well as the guardrails. We see that coming in the next 24 months to give a bit of perspective on the timing. And there is, of course, an implication on the business model behind the tech companies providing services across the stack or even for each single component. What is exactly this change is about? Let's go back again, decades ago, 15 years. You might have heard that often saying, if it's not in SAP, if it's not on Salesforce, doesn't exist at all. Why so? Because the value was on the data layer. Information, structure, and data was the value. And therefore you have business model both on the service providing part of the tech stack, as well as on the company. You need to have your data structure in a certain database. What is not in SAP or in Salesforce doesn't exist. Then you move to, after these clunky workflows, frustration. I bet that most of you that are in the sector will experience frustration when dealing on certain software. And therefore they ask, and the solution is, let's work on better user interface. And therefore, you see the value moving from the data part to the UI interface in general. But guess what? With what we just shared before, now where is the value? The value is less about the interface. Of course, the interface is speeding up in terms of interaction engagement, but as agents are not a deterministic system, as we discussed, you need to have a super strong decision-making embedded in the agents. And therefore, the logic behind that becomes the moat, the competitive advantage, and the core part of the evolution of the stack. In perspective, till today, you might have heard most of the focus being on the white boxes here. LLM, obviously, platforms, and still called Gen AI platforms. But the right-hand side part, on the color, you don't see that, but should be kind of grayish, tagged with new, is where we see that the core value will be generated through these operators. And the market is getting already quite dense on that. What is critical? Agent to agent. You are probably familiar with that. So more the MCP, which is the connection with agent and tools, which of course is a core part that we cluster in these agentic tool registries. The agent to agent is fundamental to create an ecosystem, to have embedded agent, to speed up the interaction among the tech stack. Orchestrators, see more and more, NHN is able to scale basically business workflows complex with agentics in quite easily, and that is incredible if you think about a few months ago. And the memory platform are becoming, as we were saying before, critical components. Okay, you already talk about evolution of that, new way of structuring graphs and networks. So that is where we see focus of evolution happening over the next 24 months. We will have minutes of question in a couple of minutes, but in the meantime, if there is anyone that want to comment or share, please feel free to raise your hands, and I will make that interactive as you want. Now, you probably, I don't know, but there might be a question, and at least we're asking ourselves this question many times. If everything is so powerful, is that able to challenge consulting as well? And the answer is yes, and very much. Yeah. So let's see. I'm not sure you can hear the audio. Probably not, because it is being played by my laptop, so it's fine. Amazing. We have agents, and we cannot stream audio. But anyway, the key point is, especially on the financial sector, where you see so many data, structure and unstructured, as we saw before, so unstructured data are becoming critical, we see the opportunity to translate this financial data into proper business intelligence, which is a big component of our project as strategy consulting. So we developed this analyst AI tool where you can see you have your data there as if you are a consultant. You can ask questions. These information are plotted, is structured, so you can have simulation, you can have visualization, exactly work of a top management strategy consultant analyst. And that is available to the company. We are deploying that across many different sectors. And I think it's a good testimony on how agents are actually disrupting many markets, even somehow well-established and high-growing market as ours market. So we believe that the potential that you see here in terms of interacting with UI, having chatbot at your disposal, and of course the memory components become essential because it's very much custom-made and tailored on your needs. And that's where, as we saw before, attention is being moved. So deploy these tools, customize, high power, and high efficiency. However, everything is not so amazing, right? There are risks that are being part of the dynamics, especially under this agent evolution that we are facing. I can bet you have heard many times about consumption and pollution. And these are two elements that are very much dangerous and need to be factored in the discussion and the strategic planning, as well as the engagement of the population. I just want to focus your attention on the right-hand side of this page, which is crazy. That's come from the MIT research, where if today on AI only, data center is much bigger than that. AI only is roughly 8 terawatt of consumption in this, more or less in these years, okay? It's going to skyrocket, to brace yourself, more than 600 terawatt per year of consumption. To make an example, Italy is 300 terawatt. And that's crazy. So the core part to handle that, and I'm focusing here in terms of risk on the demand of energy, but of course another key point to say is to make that sustainable, people need to feel sustainable, and we are seeing a 50% more or less of companies where AI is being used that are afraid, scared of losing their jobs. And that's, as leaders, is something that has to be managed, okay? And that goes well with the first part of the discussion we had today, where the skills, the training, leadership, and tools are an important point to still have people at the center orchestrating this agent's world. But I want to double down on the consumption part. There are two angles to solve that. And the good message is, yes, it's increasing, it's quite, again, scaring, but there are already solutions in place. There are two words to solve that. The first one is reduce as much as possible the energy demand. One interesting example is the change on architecture on models. So AI models, as you know, are token-based, meaning a word. So the model is predicting the most likely word to happen next. There are new structure. We're changing the paradigm, so they go from word to concept. So a token becomes a concept, which is basically a phrase. And therefore you can reduce a lot the demand of energy coming from the LLM model. An example is Platonic Research. It's a company that we know we are collaborating, won the BCG Innovation Challenge Prize this year, which is an event we organize on a yearly basis, where we cluster top 10 startups and scale-ups with Italian founders, so based in Italy, on a specific topic. The second point is reducing the emission generating from the demand. And here you see already the big player working on CO2 capture, having data center strategically allocated in a cool area, So Finland, where of course the grid is available and the temperature is lower, is a good example where you have strategic planning of data center. Okay, so these are a couple of things to say there are big risks, but there is also action in place where it will be interesting to see how the world will evolve. So I'll pause there. I'll leave this page on the background just to start recapping the key message. I think we have probably 5-7 minutes for a couple of questions, or if you want someone to share proper experience or vision on that, please do. That is an informal setting, so.
And by the way, we have a form at the end, so if you want the presentation, we can also send it to you. Any questions?
Well, so in the menu, warm up the question. I'll leave the QR code so you can start getting subscribed to our information, and we'll be happy if you leave your details to send the presentation over. Don't be shy. Yes, thank you. Go ahead.
Hi. As a consultant, okay. Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Now, can you hear me? Okay. So as a consultancy group, are you scared about AI as client can steal the job that you offer to them? So like they can use AI to replace your work?
We are excited. We are excited to have the opportunity to think about how to renovate ourselves. Okay, so that is a bit political answer. No, jokes aside, as you see the video before, that is a thing. Yeah, so it's actually useless to be scared. It's a thing. It's a fact. Things are changing, and we have clients say, you know what? I was thinking about asking you guys for a small project. I'm thinking about your organization model, but guess what? I upload some file and ask ChatGPT. And it was okay. Yeah, okay, nice. So my point is disrupting many industry, but there are also things that are changing. No, so the example is if you have to do some strategic work, which has to used to be core of BCG work for many decades. Over the last 10 years has changed also in terms of requirements, so we are more hands-on. So strategic work can be done, and that's the reason why we have done Analyst AI that you saw before in the video. But there are a big program where we have been asking to generate hundreds of millions of impact by fine-tuning the way that the manufacturing process is doing. Okay, so we, got in a very complex plan to understand how you tweak the parameters of many different machines to get to a higher, say, effectiveness of your whole product. So that's a thing where you need to put there many different components, coming also for new technology to be able to sustain that level of impact. So that's why we're getting new tools to deliver big thing, and we are maybe putting as a second priority something that used to be a core thing, but now we have tools that even us are providing that can speed up the work of a traditional consultant in the past.
Maybe just also a few, while we're passing the mic, my view as well, will probably change the work of people, right? Will change the way we do something, but think about industrial revolutions, no? We are one step ahead of a very big and massive change. So think about people before the engine, no? Think about those situations. Has the world ended? No. Have people converted their work? Yes, definitely, no? So, of course, the future is unknown, but there might be, for sure, changes will substitute us entirely, not until we have conscious and we can say what is good and what is bad, no? At least that's my view, but I'm sure tomorrow Ursula would would provide a view from the EU perspective on that.
Yes, thank you very much for a very interesting presentation. My question is actually related more to security of different agents and data privacy, right? Because, okay, and leaving aside the aspect of hallucinations and that sometimes these tools unfortunately can produce really inaccurate or wrong analyses, etc. Data privacy, I think more than security, because security to me is about being hacked. Okay, maybe that can be fixed. But a big issue is actually data privacy, because a lot of companies have what they consider proprietary data and information, and with a lot of agents and a lot of tools, LLMs, and not only, you're kind of signing up to giving away your data for the training of future models, etc. And also sometimes, especially smaller companies, I'm not talking about large companies, but startups and smaller companies are not fully aware of what they're signing. So what can you tell me about that? Where do you see the future in terms of data privacy? Thank you.
It's a great question. Thanks for that. So, stating the obvious, you see more and more features provided by the foundational LLMs on keeping your data safe, so not used for training. Okay, so that is the obvious answer. But the point is still there. How do you ensure, especially on a critical mission project and data, that you keep the highest level of security? The trend is, and that's why you have many companies to go in that direction, to have models that are running on-prem, even small, so you have edge model that are able, and you see that from Apple, yeah, that they are claiming that they will release a version of ChatGPT equivalent that is running on device, yeah, on the edge. So that is one trend. The other trend is to have open source or open weight model that are deployed within critical infrastructure, so not used for training the main house LLM, but they are only deployed on-prem. Interesting is you see not just the foundational model, but also the other components. You see the agent-to-agent, the tools registry part that are provided as a platform that can run on-prem. And that is being the standard. I was talking about to some founders in Silicon Valley the other day. They are deploying a new way to develop agents with natural language prompt, and they're able to offer this solution on-prem. So that is a critical point. The good thing is we're probably coming from a wave of very high level of sensibility on security. Think about what happened the other day. There were 3 airports, Amsterdam, I think Heathrow, and Brussels airport, that were shut down basically because of a service provider, which is like a 20 billion company, was hacked. Okay, as simple as that. So it's critical for everyone, and the solution there are going already AI native company deploying that, ability to have that on-prem, and a high level of guardrails. The other point you mentioned is the way that you avoid hallucination. We didn't mention, but a key component of the stack is the way that evals, so the evaluation of the work that an agent is doing, is becoming critical. And that is one of the skills, for example, if you want to double click on that, that will be relevant or relevant over time. Exactly because you can have the model on-prem, that can be super safe in terms of flows of data, but you want to have higher accuracy as well, because otherwise can be mission criticals. Evals are a key component of the tech stack.
And to maybe angles more, regulations. Regulations are ramping up. We have something already in Europe. Depends on the market where you are, but the AI regulation in Europe, it's something. And second thing is, consider that there are agents that are now built to exactly do what you ask for. So doing auditing, doing verification of how the data is used, where is used, from where it's taken, and in order to try to regulate that part, no? So these are also 2 other angles that are for sure interesting, or can answer to your question.
Yeah, I think we have time for the last question. She raised the hand first, sir.
Thanks a lot. And let's pretend to split AI from a technological and ethical regulational point of view. How do you think the relationship between these two parts is going on in the future? Will ever regulation manage to handle completely the AI from a technical point of view, or will the technical part always be one step forward? Thanks.
Emma, do you know how to answer?
Yeah, I'm glad there is like a 30-second to answer this question because, no, jokes aside, that I think is a dilemma that has been there for forever. I mean, if you look at the story, there's a nice book called Supremacy about the AI story. They won the Financial Times Book of the Year, very much recommended. And you clearly see that the story the story of AI is exactly to your point. So Assabis had a long-lasting discussion with Google exactly for how to keep the ethical dimension as core part of every product development. Because you don't know if you are building AGI, superintelligence, whatever, how that will evolve, okay? And that is a big question. So as BCG, we have a responsible AI framework so that everything that we do is analyzed across different dimensions, which is not just a regulation on low perspective, but has also ethical question. How do you apply that? Who can use that? What can be the tricky part there in that infrastructure so that you try to have somehow a rounded view on that? But it's still an open question. Yeah, how do you keep the ethics on AI, which is difficult to regulate, as core part of the dimension? Assabis won the Nobel Prize. I think he's still figuring this out, so I guess that we probably have a bit more time. Okay, but thanks so much. You can scan the QR code, leave your information, ping us on LinkedIn. My name is Emmanuele Benatti, Niccolò Martellini.
Niccolò, thank you very much.
More than happy to connect further. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Emanuele. Thank you, guys, and enjoy Italian Tech Week. Bye-bye.